Hello, my name is Annie Altamirano. Welcome to my YouTube channel, Empowering Teachers Worldwide. Today, I would like to share with you a few classroom ideas based on The Promise, one of Nicola Davies' books. You may remember the name because she's the author of The Day War Came, a beautiful poem about the plight of refugees. And you may have watched some videos that I shared on my YouTube channel based on that poem. Now, The Promise is the story of a thief who tries to snatch an old woman's bag, but she finds that she cannot have the bag unless she makes a promise. She promises something in return, and that is to plant them all. When it turns out that the bag is full of acorns, this young thief embarks on a journey that takes her along a path that she never imagined and changes her life and the lives of others. Now, you can start the storytelling session in different ways. And the first thing and the main thing is to create interest. And of course, it will depend, the way you do it will depend on the age of the class. So you can bring a few acorns and have the learners to touch them and feel them and ask them what they think they are. You can explain that these are seeds. So you can ask them how powerful they think this seed can be. What would they do with it? What do they think grows from one of them? You can also share photographs, a photograph of this part of the story, this page of the story. They have the acorn. You can write the words "I promise" on the board and ask them, what can a young thief, a promise, and an acorn have in common? And elicit ideas from the class. One of the things that I usually recommend teachers is use the actual book and let the students touch the book, manipulate the book. So you can show the cover of the book, and the cover holds clues as to the themes and the nature of the story. So give the students time to look closely and look at the illustrations and comment on these illustrations. Focus on the girl, how they interpret the image of this main character. What do they make of the position she is in? What impression does her position in the picture give together with the expression on her face? And what does she have there on the floor near her hand? Then show the book. You can show just the opening end paper and encourage learners to speculate on the focus of the book. And you can also show both end papers. And so you can ask the children what lies between the end papers, what kind of story will move us from the opening cold and gray stretch of pavement to the colors of the closing end paper. You can use the image of the girl here, for example, looking, you see her, she's here, looking up at the buildings from the first page of the text and discuss as a class or in small groups what this image tells us about this character, this girl. Ask questions to draw out the thinking and the response. Who is she? What is she doing there? Who is she with? Is she alone? Is she with someone? Where is she going? Why is she alone? And so you can ask the learners to write the ideas on a poster, make a poster and have them write the ideas there or on sticky notes and put them up on a notice board. With older students or with more advanced students, you can extend the activity. You can ask them to consider how little we know about this main character. She's barely there, both in terms of the position in the picture and also what is revealed of her. And also make them notice the flatness of her coloring. Why might that be? So also help them consider how she is framed by the buildings. How do the buildings make the students feel? How would they feel if they were the character? Have they ever felt like that? So our learners might explore the feeling of being dominated by the surroundings. They might notice the relative lack of free space. Notice the small geometric blocks of white space at the top of the picture, and how this almost robs the picture of air, even the facelessness of the buildings. The windows, notice that the windows are simply rectangular lines drawn on a block of color. There's nothing to see there, yes? No green either. Now, it's time to read the book. So the first read of the book, of any book, is a unique experience, and there is a decision to be made here. You have three options, I'd say. You can read through as you would in any story time session, ideally a pre-rehearsed read through, as you would like to capture the language rhythm of the book and know just when to reveal the illustrations. You can read through deliberately and slowly, allowing for speculation, discussion, reaction as you move through the book. And as there is a full version of the book on YouTube, you can show this reading. And although it's lovely to watch, I wouldn't personally, and this is a very personal choice, I wouldn't use it until the class have read and experienced the actual book. Now, this decision is yours to take, and sometimes it depends on the story you are going to tell. But whatever decision you make, read the story aloud to yourself first, perhaps a couple of times, and experiment with the phrasing. You can watch the recording of Nicola Davies herself reading the story on YouTube. And you can use that as an inspiration for your own reading and let the actor in you decide how you want to do it. Now, you can use some of the ideas I'm going to show you while you are reading. Other ideas work better when you have finished. In any case, it's up to you to decide. Here are the ideas, and you decide how to use them. Now, the illustrations of storybooks are usually as important as the story itself, so you can exploit them to develop the learner's appreciation, creative thinking, critical thinking, and language development. For example, take the image of the city here, and the text says, nothing grew, everything was broken, no one ever smiled. So what do the students notice? There is no green anywhere. There are no trees, no flowers, no grass. You can explore also the picture of a crowd of people in the third spread. Yes, consider how they are presented in terms of arrangement, their facial expressions. Is there any facial expression? The coloring. Select one or two figures and explore what they might be thinking and feeling. Ask learners what they can see, what they might hear if they were there, and how they might feel. So you can build vocabulary around the image and ask the students to add their own ideas. Then, as we proceed, we have the crucial moment, the key moment in which the promise is made. Here we have the tussle between the elderly lady and the protagonist. And there are two phrases that are really important: easy victim and the strength of heroes. When you read the story, you're going to find these two phrases. Discuss what they mean and how they together give a mixed impression of the old lady. As you continue the story, help learners notice how the illustrations begin to change. A lightness creeps in, first with the impression of the trees as the protagonist begins to realize the nature of the promise she has made. The introduction of brighter colors in the shape of the birds. Why does she say that she feels rich beyond my wildest dreams? The text is beautiful. I encourage you to read it to yourselves because it's really beautiful. Now, this is an ideal time for the students to make further predictions, drawing upon what they have read so far and what is presented on this spread. Now, as we go on, towards the end of the book, everything changes. Colors, space, colors explode across the city. So allow the children to savor this imagery. Draw their attention to the use of color and encourage them to consider how there is a growing movement from the left-hand side of each spread to the right. You will notice this with the book. And finally, when the story ends, we come to the full circle and the key scene is repeated. And it goes like this. And last night, in a lonely alley, a young thief fought me for my sack of acorns. I smiled and made the old bargain, knowing how a heart can change, knowing that my planting will go on. It's so sweet, it's so beautiful. So you can introduce, after they have read the story, you can introduce the students to the term cyclical, a cyclical story, and make links to the word cycle and its meanings, especially in terms of the process itself. And think of clear links here. Ask the children to think about what it means to end the book with a repetition of the earlier robbery. Will this story ever end? If some think that it will, encourage them to share ideas for the sorts of endings they envisage. And of course, be prepared for allow these endings to be extended or challenged. You may find it useful to draw a graphic representation of a cyclical story like this, for example, and use it to present the story of the structure of the story. After this first reading, you can go back to the story a second time and encourage learners to use the words and the phrases and sentences, and depending on the level and the age of the class, extend this to consider the similes and the metaphors and the personifications that you're going to find in the text. You can also ask questions that involve a personal response to your story and focus more on nature and the environment. You can also ask learners to choose a word, words, phrases, sentences, similes, metaphors to describe the city on a strip of paper. In groups, they can share individual strips of paper and put them in an agreed order that creates the group's description of the city in a sort of free verse poem. And they can read their poem to make sure that it makes sense. You can also ask groups to add a soundtrack to their poem using their voices or percussion, and rehearse and perform the poems or make a video poem. Here you have some other creative ideas. You can ask them to visualize what it feels like to be immersed in nature, to paint a bird's eye view of where they live. The perspective is completely different and it allows for very creative ideas. To draw their favorite scene from the book, write the sequel of the story, as I mentioned before, writing the poem of how they feel when they are outside in nature, write about a short story about their favorite time in nature. They can also make a collage or little books. This will depend on the age and level of proficiency of your students. And they can also make a conscience alley. A conscience alley is a useful technique for exploring any kind of dilemma faced by a character. And this provides an opportunity to analyze a decisive moment in greater detail. The class forms two lines facing each other, and one person takes the role of the protagonist and walks between the lines as each member of the group speaks their advice. And it can be organized so that those on one side give opposing advice to those on the other. And when the protagonist reaches the end of the alley, they make their decision. You can ask the learners to put themselves in the role of the girl. They can think what might be in the bag, ask questions to explore their thoughts, what they hope to find, why they hope to find a particular thing, what are they going to do with what they find, what advice they would give the girl, for example. Should she keep the promise she made or throw the acorns away and forget about them? So from a conscience alley, the children can take, or the students can take two positions. The ones who think she should keep her promise from one side of the alley, while those that think she shouldn't stand on the other side. And as the child walks the conscience alley slowly, the others quietly explain their reasons for the side they have taken. And eventually, the girl makes a decision. Well, I hope you find these ideas interesting. You can find some more ideas when you visit my blog, Empowering Teachers Worldwide. But I hope these ideas are useful. And please make sure you subscribe to my YouTube channel. Click on the little bell to make sure, again, that you get notified when I post a new video. And keep an eye on the channel, because quite soon I'm going to record another video with more ideas based on this book. Bye, till the next one.